Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Wyndham Raymond School District Board of Directors meeting for December 4th, 2019. It is 6:30 p.m. and we're in the Wyndham Town Council chambers. Mr. Howell?
Kate Bricks.
Present.
Janie Cummings.
Present.
March Gavoni.
Present.
Pete Hensler.
Here.
Anna Keeney.
Here.
Kate Levier.
Here.
Scott McLean.
Here.
Jenny Butler.
Here. Push your buttons.
Okay. Will you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Howell, were there any adjustments to the agenda?
There aren't any adjustments to the agenda tonight.
Thank you. Okay. It is now time for public input. It's an opportunity for the public to comment on things that are not in the agenda. Any public want to come and comment? Spiritedly? Okay. Could I have a motion to go into executive session, please?
I move to approve going into executive session to consider the possible expulsion of a student pursuant to 1 MRSA subsection 4056B.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Thank you. We're in executive session. Okay, thank you. We are out of executive session. Could I have a motion, please?
I move to vote that the board determines the following: that the student's actions were deliberately disobedient, that the removal of the student is necessary for the peace and usefulness of the school, and that based on these facts, the board hereby expels the student effective immediately for an indefinite period of time, and that the superintendent notify the student and his/her parents of this action in writing with a copy of these written findings of fact and conclusions. If the student is expelled for an indefinite period of time, a reentry plan will be prepared by the superintendent in consultation with the student and his or her family, the parents or grandparents of the student, and the student have the right to request readmission pursuant to law.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of expulsion? All those opposed? Okay. The motion does not carry. The student is not expelled. We are going to take a 5-minute break now. Now, Ryan Karen, principal of Wyndham High School, and some students.
No.
Ryan Karen, principal of Wyndham High School, will present an update to the board.
Good evening. So I apologize. Bad weather on Monday and Tuesday played havoc on rehearsal, practice, work schedules.
Okay.
So I hope to bring what I'd like to do is work with Chris to bring you all to the shop at a later date and let you see the robot. So we started tomorrow.
Oh, good. Yes.
We competed.
I'd like to do that.
We did a nice job, qualified for the state competition. So it's very neat. I wanted to thank you for supporting my position last year. So as you know, last year, our computer technology teacher did a little bit of computer technology and then did some capstone support. And we feel like we got a handle on the capstone. So this year she's doing a robotics class, intro to technology class. She's doing an AP computer science class, which is really neat. So I really appreciate your support for that position last year and support for some of the supplies and mini robot kits and then the supplies that we use to make the robot. So
That's great.
Work with Mr. Howell to try to set up a time before a meeting where you all can get in and take a look at the robot itself and talk to the kids about their experience.
Wonderful.
So what I've done last year when I came in, I went over the action plan, and then I tried to link the action plan to the NEASC recommendations. It got a little clunky, so this year I have shared with you the 2-year progress report NEASC recommendations, and I can work through what we're doing there, and that is directly tied to our action plan. So this is kind of step-by-step kind of give you a picture of what we're doing at the school in terms of instruction, assessment, and curriculum, and in terms of addressing some of the recommendations that came to us from NEASC. I will be spending some time in the summer writing the 2-year report, and then we'll send it out to next October. I'm feeling really good about where we're at and our ability to meet not only the highlighted recommendations, but some of the additional recommendations that we have more time to address. What I think we're headed right in the right direction. So a lot of this material would be on the first goal in our school action plan, which is around improving teaching and learning, and then the second goal is enhancing the environment. And then when I'm done, sort of Ms. Misha will talk a little bit about some of the restorative practices that they're going to address some of those issues. So the first recommendation is to complete a written curriculum using a standard curriculum design template for each content area. So we started this work last year. Christine Hessler and I developed a template that is standardized for every course. So at the high school, it's for every course and for every level of every course. So there'll be a United States History academic, and then a United States History honors, and then United States History AP. And on that form, it gives a description of what is of the course, and then it lays out the graduation standards that are present in the course. This year, we've gone the next step where we're looking at I can statements underneath the graduation standards, and we're asking the staff to use the verbiage in the I can statements to really delineate the difference in rigor levels that we need in those different levels of classes. So if the target is complex math problems. So in a standard level class, it might be can solve complex math problems. And then in the academic level class, it might be can solve complex math problems in an authentic application. And then in an honors level class, it would be solve complex math problems by finding errors and creating possible solutions. So we go from the contextual level to the analysis level to the creation. And that's kind of where we want to go. These templates will make that clear. So when staff are looking, if a math teacher come in, here's your curriculum template for this class, they can see not only the content, but the rigor level we're looking to get to at that content. And that should be standardized across the class, no matter which teacher is teaching the class. So provide more equity, provide clearer targets, and the I can statements give an opportunity for students to really self-reflect. So these are the 3 I cans that are going to be on this assessment. Can I do this? Can I do this? Yes, yes. Can I do this? No, I'm not there yet. Then I try to get remediation. So take some of that graduation standard language that can be hard for parents and kids to understand, and then move it from that to performance indicator to I can statements that are kid and parent friendly. So that's what the content teams are working on currently. Once those are completed, the guides will be included in the high school planning guide. So when parents and kids are looking at which courses they should take, which level of class is appropriate for me, that will be there, and will also be on the website. So that is the major work that is that's taking place in the departments at this time. The next recommendation was ensure the curriculum is purposely designed to provide all students with opportunities to practice and achieve the 21st century learning expectations. So if you look at a curriculum for a class, it's like a 3-legged stool. So you've got content-specific material, and then you've got the work that we ask them to do, the habits of work, then you have the skills that are transferable across content areas. So what we're asking teachers to do is to determine where the 21st century skills are being taught currently, put those on their onto the curriculum guide so we can map that out. And then once we have that map created, we'll do some work to make sure that those things, that every student has multiple opportunities to practice. The capstone at the end, we have a rubric designed so that that's that last opportunity to show that they've met those the 21st century skills. also looking at adding I can statements in the skills specific to the content areas on the plan. So I'm really trying to set that guide as a tool that we're going to build and have conversations in departments with parents, with kids about. While both of those things are going on in all departments, the math department is really working hard with the new program. So that's also, we were missing talking about the time that they've spent. So they're spending a lot of time working with the staff are using all of their professional development time working on the new program, the coach coming in and spending some time. So math is kind of doing double duty because they're learning the new program, they're trying to align the new program with our standards, making sure that all that fits. And it fits very nicely because we did the long review to make sure we picked a program that would align with this. But that is also one. Anytime you have any questions,
have no fear.
We're super shy.
The next thing was to expand the use of authentic tasks so students can apply knowledge and skills beyond the classroom. This can be a tricky one, right? When you're teaching, you get your curriculum and you've got snow days and you've got to get through what you're doing. So how do we find different ways? Teachers are doing a really nice job. We're encouraging that, trying to give examples of how they can find authentic ways to show. The math program has a lot of that built into it. But we've done some neat things. The robotics class is a big example. So they learn how to code, then they learn how to make little robots, and then they learn how to make a big robot, and then they have to problem solve. There's no, the coach isn't involved when they're in the competition. How are we going to solve this problem? What's the best way? That's great. Set design and construction for the musical was done in some of our art classes, so that was pretty neat. And the crime scene project that you saw last year, which continues to expand. We're trying to include more departments in that work. And then we're really excited, it hasn't started yet, but we're looking at a recycling initiative where Paula Pop got a mini grant to do some recycling work at the high school, and the Katahdin program is trying to pair with her. So I'm in the process of making sure that Katahdin teachers are safe to use the shop, and they're going to design and build some recycling stations. And then the health classes, Paula's health classes, are going to help man those stations and do a promotional presentation around that. So those are some neat things that we're trying to build into the curriculum. Provide opportunities for teachers to improve their instructional practices by examining current research. We made a change to our PLG structure this year where we have some thematic based. Teachers have some choice. Are we looking at cross-curricular instruction? Are we looking at freshman focus? Are we looking at practical problem solving? And then we have some standard PLG where teachers can come with an issue and share that with their peers, and then they work together to come up with answers. The idea is that through that good conversation and some documents we provide and some research we provide, teachers will be learning and those things. It's been really great in the back meetings, Building Advisory Council. Teachers are wanting to figure out a way to share some of their great conversations from the PLGs with the bigger group and with us and administration, and it's been a little tricky because those are sometimes teachers take a chance and they put in an issue that they're really working on, getting feedback from their peers, and how do we feel safe sharing those things with the bigger group while working on that coming back. So we're excited about that. Developing a formal process to collect, desegregate, and analyze student assessment to respond to inequities in student achievement. So we're doing that in a few different ways. I've got a decent amount of background on data analysis. When I was at former school, we were a SIP school and got some really good funding and support in data analysis and looking at things. So I've been looking at data and talking with Chris about things that he had seen while he was principal. Kerry Kowalczyk has done some really good stuff to JMG, through JMG on SATs. So we're looking at a number of different things and trying to see where things are landing. So some of the things that we've seen, we're working with the RTI committee on attendance. So we've created a new process, not only to track, so a couple of different lanes. So I'm doing the official truancy letters and messaging and working with parents in that lane. But we also have another kind of parallel to that the advisors and the teachers are working with kids and parents, so it's not punitive. We really need you here, so kind of a reach out and say, we miss you, we'd like to see you, at different checkpoints. So advisors check in, assistant principals check in as a kind of a nice guy support, guidance counselors check in, and then I come in and get heavy at a certain point. But we made some, seem to be small but significant changes in where we're tracking attendance as well. So we are now marking if a student is absent from first period, we mark them as absent for the full day and send out a message to parents, and that makes it cleaner than it had been in the past around is a student absent for the day or is a student absent from certain classes. So I think our data in the past, our attendance data would, I think our guess would be our attendance would be better than we were reporting because some of those kids were in the building and just not where they were supposed to be. So now we have a better way to delineate between kids who aren't in the building, we reach out to their parents, kids who are in the building, not where they're supposed to be, we work with assistant principals, guidance counselors, and kids. So that's a little bit different. The SAT data we've used for a number of things. We really looked at it hard with the math. It showed us that, unfortunately, some of the students that we predicted would be doing very well were not. And so that we've done some realignment. When we dug a little bit deeper, we see that many of our students were struggling with some algebra, some basic algebra skills on the SAT. So they have released items, so you can look to see which questions people are getting wrong. And it looked like, regardless of are they remedial math, are they grade level math, or are they some of the advanced students, some of the algebra 1, basic algebra 1 skills were tripping us up. So we focused on that. We're looking at making sure that we're being cyclical in what we're doing, and the math program will do that. That's some of the work. We don't have a lot of subgroups. We're not a super diverse community at this time. So I look at the full group, and I look at our special ed population, I look at our free and reduced population, and we do, we're pretty close to the state averages on how those break out. On standardized testing, our girls and boys do similar. There's not a huge difference there. There is a difference in the classroom, so we're looking at that. And I think that's probably what completion. Our girls get higher grades in classes on an average, but they don't do markedly better on a standardized test. So trying to tease out what's causing those things and how we can better address those things. Attendance plays as it should. Has a major impact on teacher grades, but not as significant an impact on standardized performance on either NWEAs or SATs. So what does that mean to us and what can we do? So we're in the early phases of really digging into those things. Another thing that we looked at that Chris started a few years ago was looking at how students were doing with the transition from the middle school to the high school. So we track freshman failure rates, freshman attendance rates, and we've seen some significant gains there. We had a 17% decrease this year from last year in first quarter failure for freshmen.
That's great.
We had it was 32% over 2 years. So trying to work closely with Drew, trying to work closely with Randy to say what exactly are they doing and what are we doing with our freshman focus group to make these changes happen. We're excited about them. We want to really zero in on exactly what we're doing to improve. So we see this marked improvement and then try to enhance it and maybe move it to sophomore year, junior year. So that's some of the things we're doing in the assessment.
Can you embellish a little bit on that? What are you seeing? What are they doing? Why the improvement?
So they're working really hard on on organization at the middle schools where they're using the planner. They're asking students to write what the goal for the day is, what's the homework. They're taking time in their day to do those things. We don't buy the planners at the high school. They have a laptop. We encourage them to use the many different options they have to try to keep them organized there. We have asked teachers this year to post the daily objectives on the board each day, the way that the middle schools have done for the last little bit. I think that has had an impact where this is what we're doing today. So we know when we start, this is exactly what we need to do. We have I think a part of it is we changed the schedule a little bit, so more students got their first and second choice in electives. So if they're enjoying their day a little bit more, that allows them to handle that. And it's a focus. We have a group of faculty members that meet to discuss how can we better support the transition for freshmen. We have a freshman focus class where we, through our freshman study hall, where we teach kind of high school survival skills and what you need to do, and the good work that they're doing at the middle school as well. To say, and I have to believe that some of the work that's been done over the last year or so around making the middle school policies and high school policies match up a little bit better is paying off, because we know the consistency is huge for kids, and especially freshmen. It's a big building. So we were talking 900. There's 1,100 people in the building every day.
Right.
We take everybody into consideration, and the way our schedule moves them 6 or 7 times in a day, it can be tricky. So we're trying to build on what they're doing at the middle school, what we're doing at the high school, so we can do because the statistics are glaring that success in your freshman year sets you up. And if you get behind in your freshman year, you're playing catch up all the time. Right? With our graduation requirements and the travel requirements and pads, if you get behind on core credits early, your options become limited later. So really trying to set a strong foundation in the freshman year is a focus on that. And the data shows that we're heading in the right direction.
I would have to think that the grading and reporting policy, which is changed.
And I wasn't here for the year before, so I'm not sure how much that played in. The mean average score for a failing student, when the passing score was when the bar was a 73, it's a 71, and when it's a 70, it's a 68. So I think the teachers identify if kids are hitting the bar, and then if they're not, they send a message that they're not hitting the bar. But it's the change in numbers. I'm not sure that made a huge impact.
But there was a difference in the expectations for middle school.
Yes.
That prepared them better for high school, I think, as far as grading goes.
All right.
Can I ask you a really silly question about attendance? Have they looked at the numbers to see if the switch from, specifically for Raymond, for 8th graders that go from like the bus time, the bus travel, if that has impacted attendance at all? I just know, like, I think about it at my house. I have a middle schooler that leaves at 6:55 to get to school at 7:20, and a middle schooler that leaves at 5:55 to get to school at 7:20. So I know there are days where I'm like, get out of the house.
I can take a look. We have because we have more students that take the bus than the last couple of school districts that I've worked at. Our on-time attendance is much better than because they're but I know anecdotally, I know most of the Raymond kids that I know go to school every day because they do, but I would just be curious if that. I can take a look.
No big deal. If you have some extra time.
Okay.
The next thing on the list, develop specific and measurable criteria for each of the school's 21st century learning expectations. What we've tried to do is encourage staff to use the rubric that was developed before my time to assess capstone as guidelines assessing or providing feedback on the 21st century skills that are embedded in the class. So they're receiving feedback that is consistent with what they're going to be assessed on in their culminating project. So that's how we work to address that. Review and revise the grading reporting. We did that last year. We continue to look at all our department meetings. How's it working? The practices of summative being 90% formative, 10% and how being reported but not factoring in. I still believe in that. I think it is an accurate way to show what students know, the skills and knowledge that they know. I think that we need to find ways to reward and acknowledge kids who have strong habits at work and that's a tricky thing to do. Because that means some people are working really hard and it takes them a little bit longer. So I worked in a system that was trending and not averaging, and that dealt with that issue, but it developed a whole lot of other issues. So in an averaging system, it's always tricky. Some kids learn at a different pace than others, but with our remediation policy and with our new addition, with the addition of a second cry block where kids have more opportunity during the school day, sadly, kids don't stay after school for extra help the way that they used to. And my mother was a teacher. She was at school until 4 every day, a classroom full of kids. It's just not that way. A lot of the kids that we need to spend extra time with don't have the opportunity to stay after school. So we're always trying to build into the school day opportunities for them to remediate. And I think we're doing a better job of that this year.
Ryan, do you think the late bus has anything to do with that?
I think that the late bus is, and I think kids don't love the late bus, but I don't think that it is, I don't think it plays a huge role in it. I think that they have other things that they are doing, and a lot of kids have a lot of responsibilities in the home and responsibilities outside of school, and when the school day's done, they're done.
Refresh my memory, is it only 2 days a week that we run it? Is the Raymond Lake bus still only dropping off at the shopping center?
I need to check on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Specific spots. Yep.
Yeah.
It's not ideal.
Just one specific spot.
For them.
Yeah.
And
So that's,
and if I'm not mistaken, I think that late bus, it takes you like 3 times as long to get home because I guess there's only X amount of buses, so you got to ride the whole route.
Wherever the
live.
kids are taking the bus.
Right.
That's what I heard.
That's where it's going.
Yeah.
Right.
How are we doing on time?
No, we've totally killed that.
A couple of things that we're excited about. So implement a formal protocol to review and evaluate the pride block. So this year, what we've done, our official protocol is that it's a standing, pride block is a standing agenda item on our back meetings that meet once a month. So back is department leaders and any other student people, staff members that want to come. And we've got student members of back, and so it's a bigger group, and we discuss less CIA curriculum instruction assessment, more big picture school things. So we always talk about pride. So it's the change we made. So this year we have a double pride on Wednesdays. So we have an AM pride and a PM pride. So it does a number of things. It gives us an extra 40 minutes of remediation time, which I'm excited about. It also guarantees that both students have the opportunity to have at least one pride.
Oh, yeah, good.
So they're not missing out on remediation. If we have a class meeting, so last year we had some seniors who, if we have a class meeting during pride and they want to vote, then I try to corral them, redo the class meeting. They weren't excited about coming to my office. I'll get it from my friend. So it gives us the opportunity to do that. It also opens up enrichment. So we have a lot of kids that are doing exactly what we need them to do and don't need the extra remediation time. So we've opened it up. I'm sure everybody's done a lot of coding work. So remediation comes first. If the student gets pulled for remediation, they go. But they also have the opportunity, teachers in one of those 2 blocks can offer an enrichment. They can do additional class time, additional prep for AP exams. They can tag a whole class and say, we're going to spend this 40 minutes doing AP test prep. And then we're having some clubs that we're having a hard time moving at the end of the day, taking one of those
That's
spots.
wonderful.
So it is allowing us to do those things that sometimes would have been done before or after school, within the school day, to increase equity.
Oh, that's great.
While providing that as well. The last things on their recommendations were develop and implement strategies to increase parent feedback. We've held a couple of forums. We changed the structure of the open house. My hope is to work with Noel to come up with a semi-regular newsletter from me that I can send out to parents. But we're working on that. That is every high school I've been in, parental involvement at the high school level becomes harder and harder at the elementary level. And the last recommendation we really haven't started. Christina and I are going to get on to that. It involves K-12 counseling curriculum that our guidance department is not comfortable kind of taking off of that until we have a bigger picture. So those are some of the things that we're doing at the high school. I'm not bringing any new courses for you to consider this year. We have some that you've already approved in the past that we might bring back, some of the different choice courses that we did run this year in English. Some things that you've already approved that we just, the departments are still trying to figure out what's the best way. But as far as new courses, there's no plan to bring new courses for you to consider.
Have you received any feedback from students or the parents of students who have graduated and gone to college of, like, you know, they went and they had to take remedial for a certain math or a certain English course that we could help out at the high school by offering that?
So we know that a lot of students, not just our students, are having to take remedial math courses. Our hope is that the new sequence that we have, where so we're a year away, we have a lot of freshmen that are taking the transitions math class. The hope is that we'll move closer each year to a point where Algebra 1 is the freshman curriculum, and then we move from there. That would allow all students to have Algebra 1 geometry and Algebra 2 within their first 3 years. That's the curriculum that colleges want. And then their senior year, we'd like to get to a place where, based on assessments in the junior year, we either go further, statistics, pre-calculus, calculus, or we work on supporting those skills in Algebra 1, geometry, and Algebra 2. So we're aware of that. We're looking to develop, I always say, guaranteed viable curriculum. So we have a credit-based system that to get this many credits. I would like us to get to a parallel structure where this is the content and skills that everyone needs to know, regardless of the credit, the number of credits. And when we get to that place, I like a structure where most students reach that in 3 years, and then the 4th year is exploration or remediation and support. So our math curriculum is set up, our plans are set up to get us there. In the meantime, the college review algebra that we offer for seniors starts with Algebra 1, geometry, Algebra 2. So we're trying to address some of those things. The challenge, like I talked a little bit in the SAT analysis, is our student grades and our performance on standardized tests don't always match up. And so if a student does well in the class, it's a high C or a low B, moving to the next thing. And those students, some of those students are the ones who are not passing the tests at the college level going to. So we need to be clearer with exactly what the grades mean, what standards are being hit, and really look at the data to say, I know you got this grade in class, how do you demonstrate it out? Because sometimes different schools will look at different tests as their entrance. And if a student learns and demonstrates their learning in a certain way, and it's not the test that school uses, then we are looking at that. We're trying to offer, it gets us in a little bit of a crossways on philosophy and what's best for the kids when they need to have 4 credits of math. And we're chasing credits instead of really saying, what do you need to know? So we're working on it. And I think that the curriculum work, aligning this is what's taught in this class and this is why it's important and this is what's taught in this class will really help us provide that junior and senior for students.
Cool.
Okay.
Great.
Pete,
Thank you.
Just a question, Brian?
Yeah.
All right. 2-part question, actually. What are you most proud of or excited about that's happening at the high school this year? And second part, what's the most challenging thing that you're dealing with?
What am I most proud of? I am proud of the way we've had some staffing issues. We've had some the new math. We had a lot of things going on, and the way that everybody's kind of picked up the pieces and keep the center focus on the students was great. So we teachers are teachers, so we have ups and downs throughout the school year. We all do. But the focus on what's in the best interest of the students. I'm really excited about that group that meets monthly. has just expanded and expanded and expanded. So more and more teachers are coming in and saying, what about this? And we'd like to do this. How can we do this? So it's not a tell us what to do. It's a what can we do together. So that's been really exciting. The most challenging is, I think, we spend a lot of time chasing youth, right? So we are. So I always worry that I don't know the stronger top students as much as I probably should, and I can always sleep at night because I go, they don't. Right? I didn't know my principal when I was in high school.
Sure you didn't.
I had to set up. I knew him when I was in junior high. So I think that's a challenge, right? Is that we spend, and I don't know how to fix it, right? We spend a lot of time and we let ourselves get frustrated sometimes, and we need to just sit back and say, overall, we've got some kids that are doing some amazing things. And how do you not let the time with a few that are making some poor choices steal the time and the work? Chris has shared some similar thoughts. I think the restorative work that Phil and Vanessa are doing, and we'll talk a little bit about, is going to help a lot with that. So it is. I'm going to steal some of the time because that's what I do. There we are. Instead of this happened, here's your consequences. It is this happened. What happened? Why did it happen? Think about it. How did it impact you? How did it impact other people? Bring all other parties involved. So it becomes a learning experience, and it's an opportunity to show the student that I don't like what you did, but I still really like it. When here's your consequence and away you go, and create a mess in that. Which,
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. And now it's time for Mr. Rossetti and Ms. Mishu to come and talk about restorative practices.
How are you guys?
We're great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was just going to say.
All right. Thanks for having us tonight. Appreciate having us into this conversation. So, just to kind of give you a little background on a few things. So, the first paper that Vanessa handed out for you guys is where a lot of this philosophy from us kind of stems from. I was fortunate a few years ago to work with a colleague and kind of come up with an idea of philosophy, how we like to handle work with kids. And so I shared this when I came back to Wyndham with folks and Chris, and said, this is kind of my philosophy. It's like to talk about behaviors, like to talk about why you're here, and kind of here's the line, right? We make choices, so for us, it's, once you live above the line, once you make good choices, live in integrity, own mistakes, be trustworthy, all these different things. And so for me, it was a conversation starter with a lot of kids, talking about behavior, to kind of start to build a relationship with them, and have them reflect as to what happened. So this is something for me that's kind of evolved over time, which has spread throughout this. Vanessa came on board 2 years ago. We had a conversation about this, shared with faculty, and the faculty have adopted this as well. So for us, it's developing a common language around kind of culture, climate, behavior, so we can have those conversations. So teachers now can, it's posted in almost every classroom, in the halls, around the cap. So you might see it here in the building. For us, it becomes a way for us to start to have conversations about actions, choices that we can make. And so that's kind of more from that infancy stages 5 years ago for me, into kind of now more of a school-based kind of way we respond to students and way we respond to kind of their behaviors. And I know that different schools have the 3 B's that be safe, be responsible, be respectful, those things at different elementary levels. So it's kind of expanded version of that at the high school level to talk about choices.
Kind of our general operating procedures that we use.
So often when I have the kids in class, it's a conversation of where are you right now? This action, where are you? And so that helps us have a lot of reflection. This has been shared with each grade level, first day of school, staff, we review it. It's been something that we've kind of reflected on and changed and adapted a little bit over time. So I wanted you folks to see this, to kind of see kind of where a lot of our ideas evolve in this restorative practice. Kind of looking at the next, the other slide that I handed out. So for us, restorative justice and restorative practices is it's a big piece that I've been involved with for a few years as well. I've been involved, and some of us have talked about youth court and what that looks like. And I can talk a little bit more about that later on. But 4 years ago, I started in a pilot project that kind of opened my eyes to a lot of this restorative practice. It kind of connected the dots for me, my beliefs, kind of how that connects to working with kids. And so for us, at restorative practice in the high school, so restorative justice is really about a community-based response to specific events or specific incident that happened. So in a lot of ways, it's getting all those people who are involved, who have been impacted by whatever the decision is, or whatever the situation is, and then processing each together. I'm not a social worker. I feel like I play one often on a daily basis. We've got a couple of great ones at the school, thankfully. But for us, it's kind of process the behavior, figure out what happened. A lot of stuff that's gone on in kids' lives. We talked about the social emotional learning, the ACEs, the trauma that kids have gone through. So oftentimes the response to a blow up in class is not necessarily related to the teacher or the other students about something else that's going on. Mm-hmm. So for us, it's kind of digging a little bit deeper, going back to the onion that Shrek's in very low layers, and coming back to look at what's there, kind of understand a little bit more what's happening. So for us, it's restorative justice kind of operates on the notion that healing and accountability is important, rather than punitive discipline. It hasn't been truly in what we've seen. So that's kind of where the definition.
So it was really a great opportunity for me last year when I started working with Ryan and Phil to have the opportunity to use some of these practices. Because some of my background was a little bit in this, working with students. And I think the key thing that's really been eye-opening of using these practices with high school students is getting them to take ownership for what's happened. Because one of the things that we often find is that the student will come into our office, they may have known they did something wrong, but they don't really want to talk about it. A punitive consequence is an easy way out. Yep, give you my attention, I'm all set. I can go now and go back to where I need to go. Whereas really taking that time to have the conversation, to talk about what happened, to set up meetings with those involved if needed, has led to more change in behavior over time. So really, often we end up using the blending of both restorative and punitive if needed, but really tying in that restorative piece to talk about what was your behavior, what happened, who did you harm, and then how do we change it, how do we move forward from this, knowing that you have to go back into that classroom, or you have to go back and have the class have an activity with this peer. How do we make that work in this school environment? And so really showing and modeling the skills of how do you take ownership of what happened and move forward on something, no matter how small or how big it was.
Yeah, and I think that's the kind of misnomer about restorative. It's like, oh, there's no consequence. There's always a consequence. It's how you do it, right? And so sometimes there is certain behavior requires piece attached to it, but it's the restorative conversation. It's whatever it might be. I have a 9-year-old who would much rather take a time out than have a conversation. So, as parents, it's like I'd rather have a conversation. So I torture them a little bit.
Yeah.
but it's kind of for us, it's an idea to kind of get to understand. It's like over time, might not see the result today. Might be a year, 4 years from now. 10 years from now, who knows? But it plays out over time. So, in some of the information here, the punitive aspect of things is usually some stigma attached to that. There's usually, a judgment attached to that behavior. Restorative talks about building people up, responding to a behavior, and then understanding what they need to do to make it right. And that's kind of where we come from. We look at who's been impacted, we look at what needs to be done, and then how can we help, which is what we're here for. School's not one size fits all. It's most, it works well for a lot of people, but there's some kids we see that are challenging. So just some kind of anecdotal data for you guys at the bottom of that. The past 5 years in high school on average, the number of disciplinary infractions resulting in detention and suspension totaled about 2,979 per school year. Wow. That's a large number.
Yeah.
The completion rate, when we talk about just punitive discipline, right, the completion rate of those is 46%. People actually give them the detention, they stay for the detention. So just sheer man and woman power alone giving the detention is a huge volume. A huge amount of work for not only us, but the support staff and teachers.
Can I just add to that just so the board understands? So a kid who doesn't serve the detention, then another detention comes.
Yeah.
So then they may not serve that. Then it turns into an in-school suspension. Then they may not. So the consequence just keeps rising and rising and rising. So I just don't want them that have a detention and no one ever serves it. And
it's not that,
Oh, no.
We add students, so there's a process. Thank you.
Yes. You're not
Adding to
like,
that,
oh, well.
Yeah, no, it's not just go away. Sorry, you didn't serve it. No, it's, we continually chase it down.
Good.
That's actually the student mindset.
Yeah.
So you assign me a detention, I can just get my detention. I don't have to deal with it right now.
Yeah. Right.
Whereas using more of the restorative piece, we schedule a meeting with the teacher, the other student, or whatever happens, and we make sure that.
Oh, yeah.
So there's some pieces there that we can make sure we address.
Right.
First, some of them are a little more challenging to get involved.
Yeah, exactly. So, how does it work? So how does restorative justice work for us in our building? On the backside, you'll see there are 5 basic questions that we kind of ask students. So a student might be in, English class and be very disruptive and get sent to the office. Maybe they get swore in class and sent to us. So for us, it becomes the student comes to me, and sometimes they don't want to talk, sometimes they just need a break, and that's okay. Sometimes I give them these questions on a piece of paper and say, you need to fill these out, take your time, think through, give me some good answers. Maybe begrudgingly grab a pen and do that, or have a conversation with us. So we kind of walk through these questions, ask us, so what happened? What were you thinking and feeling about at the time when that happened? It could be, I just broke up with my girlfriend. It could be, my dad just got laid off from the job. It could be, there's a number of things that come out of these conversations. When you talk about, what you thought about or felt since this happened. I screwed up. I should have said that in my class. It's been wrong. Who's been impacted? Well, my class, my teacher, you. They often say that to us. Well, I'm here with you, so it's impacting you. You've got work to do. I know that, right? I said, yeah, I do. So, and then it was kind of like, how do we fix it? Let's talk about the solution. How do we fix it? What needs to happen? And we put this on them. Tell us what you think you need to do to fix the situation. And as often as all times. Great. That's what will you say? You kind of role play it through, help with the skill building of that. Talk to me through what you're going to do. What's that email going to say? Just going to say, I'm sorry. Is it going to be more than that? Is it going to be sincere? There's a lot of questions that we have with them to walk through. And oftentimes, that's the conversation we have initially with them. Sometimes the student, depending on who's kind of this judgment, it's kind of what do you feel? And teachers are pretty good about the kid needs to come out. I want to talk to him after class. We set up a meeting. And so for us, that's kind of the process when a student is sent to us, kind of work through the restorative piece and this scenario kind of laid out. Then after that, it's kind of those 4 bullets there about kind of the form it takes within our building. So oftentimes, I know Vanessa, but the restorative chat is kind of the predominantly used tool. It is that conversation with the student, with the staff member. We sit down in our office, we schedule a time for us to meet, talk about what happened, process it. Each person answers these questions. The teachers are great, and they respond well to it, and it helps make that connection that you might not get otherwise.
Brings it right down to the human. The teacher gets a better understanding of the student, and the student really gets a better understanding of the teacher outside of that. This is my classroom teacher. This is an actual person that my action had an impact on. So I think really helps to kind of bridge the gap sometimes of some barriers that exist between students and teachers.
And that goes a long way. Now people are able to see what's going on. They understand a little bit more about it. So the short chats have been really productive, and then from there, we've done other pieces. We've done restitution where people talk about, I left a mess in the cafeteria, right? So how can we fix that? Well, I should probably stay after lunch and pick up trash. Right, great. Let's make that happen. Go stay at school and let's restore it. So it's those types of restorative aspects. There's much more weight than a detention.
Right.
Sitting in the room for 90 minutes where you're picking up trash, that's much more better. The skills coaching piece is something we talk a lot about too. I've got a couple of kids we joke about beforehand that it's like in a year the changes they've made from the skill building that we put in place for them is tremendous. The kids now they just
Going from freshman mainly to sophomore year.
Yeah.
There's a lot of students that you see them being successful in what they're doing. And they spent a lot of time with them last year. It's nice to see those gains.
Yeah, love positives. And then, the last aspect of this is youth court. And youth court been kind of a baby of mine for the last 4 years, where I've really worked with youth court out of Portland. We created a pilot project for Southeast, just kind of ended. We created our own youth court within our building. So our students have, and it's been accessed through different school board processes with students who've been either expelled or approaching expulsion, things like that. When we diverted them to, or had them kind of go through the process before they come back to school. And youth court is it's truly youth-led with adult support. So they do intakes of the students. So they meet with the students. They do an intake for about an hour and a half long process. Where they ask them a lot of questions about what's happened, and then they we'll talk about who the community who's been involved. So sometimes that's a school board, a school person. Sometimes it is a legitimate community member. Parents are involved in this. It brings these people to the table for a hearing. And the hearing is run by the students. So they have usually 3 people who serve as kind of the judges, and then there's others that act as kind of advocates. And so it's been a remarkable process because sometimes it's a structured dialogue between people who wouldn't have it otherwise. So, a parent of a 16-year-old boy or girl who can't really have that conversation, they want to be sincere with them and they can't do it at home. It turns into an argument. It doesn't turn into an argument in this meeting. It's really structured and it goes somewhere in distraction. And then out of that comes, there is some sort of a, repair agreement that's put together, and that repair agreement could be community services. Sometimes parents and children have to spend time together. Sometimes it's
curfew,
apology letters. It runs a gamut. The kids get really creative about they kind of take they take the feedback and they look at what would best fit the situation. So that's been another piece that for me it's about process and kids make bad choices. And it happens on a daily basis. So they make a bad person. And so I think it's how we get that.
I'm just curious, how do they react going before their peers? It's one thing if they come here and
So definitely.
to go before your peers and kids they hang out with all day maybe.
I think what's interesting too is some of the students who went through the youth court process didn't necessarily know the students that were the judges, and vice versa. So I think that the process was actually more valuable for the peers that weren't the person on trial per se, because they got to know this other aspect of this person who's in trouble and see that, okay, well, they're a student also. They're not just this person who's in trouble. So kind of taking away some of the stigma factors. But definitely there's a nervousness level, but the way the process is set up, it kind of breaks it down into smaller groups to do some of the pieces to then come back together. It's very structured. So it doesn't really feel like it's your peers judging you. It's more the members that are brought in, parents, teachers, to kind of share as well.
Is there a confidentiality piece in this?
Yeah. So all the students who participate in that, they go through the training. So youth court kids go through 3 days. It's like 18 hours worth of training to go through the process. And part of that is confidentiality. And anytime they have a hearing, they have to sign off on confidentiality. So, what's kind of I've seen this happen in the last few years is that different kids go through the hearing, and as I said, now they have an appreciation of this person, not just somebody who's in the hall, but we presented some information to the school, to our faculty in October about this, and I brought back one of the students who had gone through the court process as somebody who got in trouble, and he shared with them how this is enacted. It was pretty powerful stuff. The student was on the path to being punished, something else, and getting in trouble and doing some different things. He kind of had really changed his mindset, changed who he is. The student who's got now really a super bright future. He's going to graduate. He's going to do some pretty cool stuff. So,
That's great.
It's impressive.
I think that made our staff too more open to using the restorative, not just youth work, but the restorative practice in general. Seeing that, wow, this really does have an impact and make change. And that's something too that we've used that hasn't just been between students and teachers. We've also done situation student to student when there's issues going on. So kind of using the same questions, we have norms that we set before we talk, but instead of just saying, okay, you two shouldn't talk to each other or it shouldn't be together, okay, well, let's talk about what's going on and see if we can fix what's happening. So really building those, strengthening relationships, solving problems.
Did you say that program's coming, the pilot's coming to an end? Do you have plans to continue on with our own?
Working through that. We've had really good fortune by having this connection because they do a lot of the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
And for me, it's been great to have them. I can send the cases, I can speak to them. We still have access to that piece, not as much as so we're in the process of trying to figure out how that's going to work and work now. So we've got a couple of years because it really is for us it could be something that could really benefit us. But it's a time commitment that for somebody. For us, it's tough. I think for us to do an hour and a half intake, set those pieces aside.
If there's a need from the school board for us to support you in any way, I'd really love to know what that is, because I did have the privilege of meeting, oh my goodness, I can't remember the young man's name, a couple of years back, that was an AmeriCorps volunteer that was helping with and talking with him about the program. It's a really awesome thing, and I think it's something that we need to keep if we can. So please don't hesitate. Let us know what we can do. I mean, I can't speak for anyone else, but I will
and so there's just some data there in the bottom. It's the last 5 years of data, just to kind of sum it up. Last year was really the first year we really focused a lot on the restorative aspect. You can see just the sheer number of disciplinary infractions were way down. I think it's, as I mentioned before, there's some sophomores that we were joking about that really have bought in, and so their behavior is like really pretty good.
That's good.
And last year was terrible. So I mean, it was a grind for a year to get them to where they feel comfortable in school, feel safe in school, feel connected. So, but it was great work and it's worth the time now.
And I think staff is realizing that too. If students aren't in a place to learn, learning's not going to happen.
Right.
So a lot of these pieces connect with that. When you get kids in a place where they're ready to learn, they're going to be more successful in the classroom. And so it was interesting talking with a teacher first time doing a restorative meeting with a student who's been in trouble a couple different times. And, I said, how are things going? Not everything's been solved, but we at least don't have an argument now when the student who's in trouble, they own up to me, their behavior. Like, okay, that's one small change that we're seeing.
That's true.
So staff is definitely seeing some changes as well and are interested in helping, knowing that it may be an overtime growth that may not all happen.
There's been fewer I'm done with this person. What can we do to reset?
Oh, well, that's good.
And change. They've been into the SEL work that
it's a really cool thing you guys are doing. I remember, I think back on my middle school and high school experience, to be perfectly honest, it was always the vice principals that were scarier than the principals. I can't remember any of my principal names, but I know all the vice But I think, on the one hand, I'm really thankful for my experience because I did feel connected to my school, so I traveled. I was in a student, I kept moving. But the sense of community that you're helping to build, I think about how different my experience would have been if somebody had been there trying to make it a community and make it a place that you're part of and not just something you're forced to do. think it's really, really awesome what you guys are doing. So, I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I love to see the improvement in these disciplinary infraction numbers because, quite honestly, when I saw the averages, it's pretty alarming. I'm actually curious about that. So, do we have a sense of what percentage of our students are committing to disciplinary? Because just looking at the round numbers, you got 1,000 kids committing 3,000 disciplinary infractions. So that's 3 per student. We know not all students get these, so if you have 500, that's 6 apiece. If you have 250 students doing it, it's 12 apiece. Like, what percentage of our students are?
I mean, it is, Chris said, it starts off simply with, the skip class, which is a late detention, which then can parlay into an in-school suspension. So you're talking about 3 or 4 consequences based on one incident with one kid. So I mean, there's a lot of layers to it. The number of you look at the number. But really, when you're talking about, I don't have an exact percentage, but it's a smaller percentage of students that create a lot of questions. The straight ACs skip classes sometimes. So. Cool.
Thanks very much. Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay. Could I have a motion to approve the following appointment, or somebody's appointment?
I move to approve the following appointment for the 2019-20 school year. Susan Hedrick, special education teacher, Wyndham Middle School, BA1, salary $38,373, prorated to $25,581.60.
Second. Been moved and seconded. Any public comment? Any board discussion? All those in favor? Okay.
I was going to ask,
This is a mid-year resignation, and it's a replacement of that position. Or not mid-year. Third of the year resignation.
Okay.
we're not halfway there yet.
Seems like it.
Martin Luther King is halfway.
Okay. Could I have a motion about policies, please?
I move to approve the first reading of revised policy IGDJ, athletic co-curricular eligibility.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any public comment? Any board discussion?
I'm going to defer to Mr. Howell, please.
Sure. I don't know if the board remembers, but last spring we had a community member come forward with some questions about the athletic eligibility policy, and there had been some changes that had taken place, specifically adding eligibility to middle school versus eligibility to high school. And so we went through a process with that, and we thought that it would be good to not only take a look at the policy, but also to have someone from Drummond-Woodsum take a look at the policy. So Eric Herlin, who's one of the foremost experts in 504 and special education and student supports for the state of Maine, had a chance to work through the policy and made some suggestions and some clarifications for us, and specifically clarifications on how the policy might apply to special education students, 504 students, and then students who may be assigned a partial day. So while much of the spirit of the policy remained the same, there were some changes and some clarifications made within the policy to make it not only clearer for administrators, but then also clearer for parents as they work to navigate with students through that. We've had a chance to have the policy reviewed by not only the policy committee, by our legal counsel, in addition, the building administrators who are the ones who would be going ahead and implementing this. And so we bring this first draft in front of you.
And to be clear, we currently have, I know you know this, but we do have a policy. This is a revision to the current policy because this is probably the most scrutinized, one of the most scrutinized policies in the community. We thought that we would have two readings so that people can hear the changes, although they're not super substantial, give the public a chance to make comment if they wanted to. So.
Absolutely.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Do you want to explain about the two?
One is
You have two copies. One is a clean copy, and then the other one has draft 3 and the red are the changes, and there's some lineouts too, just so that you know exactly what the changes were. Probably we won't provide that for the second go around, so keep these if you need to refer to them, but I thought that would be super helpful to everybody.
Are we all set?
I do have one question for you.
Sir?
Page 3, section 2, the attendance section.
Yep.
I noticed that there's a tardy piece to it.
Yes.
What was the motive behind that one?
Going back in history a little bit, it was students who, on a game day or something else, may be showing up later in the day and missing a significant part of the day, not being present, and then expecting to play on that day, even though they really hadn't attended school for that long. And so through our athletic director and our school administration, to have some cutoffs for kids need to be in school kids need to be in school all the time, but kids need to be in school on game days to make sure that they're present.
Okay. So is it black and white?
No.
If they are 5 minutes late, then they can't play?
No, I think what's not black and white is that we do know that driving tests happen, medical appointments happen, dentist appointments happen. As you've heard from our assistant principals and principal, there's always some flexibility. I think where this comes into play is when you start to see patterns within kids that are missing days. But we want kids here arriving before the end of block 1 on game days.
Before the end of block 1.
Yes.
Okay. Because my daughter is horrible.
I was waiting for that one.
Not gonna lie.
Okay, we all set? Okay, been moved and seconded. We had board discussion. All those in favor of first reading? Okay. Could I have a motion about secretary's report?
I move to approve the minutes of the November 6, 2019 meeting.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any public comment or board discussion?
The November 6th one,
November 6th.
the adjournment, only 4 of us voted on it.
Is that the one you had to leave early?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because it's called out that Scott put in with us.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But I think that is the one, isn't it?
I think it's
No,
the
because
one.
I sat next to Kate the one I had to leave early. And she was next.
Okay.
I'm gonna go back to my original answer. No.
All right. Okay.
There is something on there that says DOTD.
Yes, that was part of the board discussion about the meeting for the October 16th one.
Okay. Well,
So somebody wanted to stay and not adjourn?
I think it was Scott.
I just wanted to try it once.
Yeah.
Someone had to leave early in that meeting. I have to go back to them.
Okay.
It wasn't me, I left early in October.
Yeah, because there's 6 people, 6 members listed being present, and like all of the votes are either 5-0 or
Did Eric go to that one? Eric's listed on there as a
Seven.
member.
yeah, Eric wouldn't have been there because that was after the election.
Yeah, he was.
Right.
I had left. Oh, maybe you're right. I think you're right. Eric left. And I think I did. There was one that I had to duck out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was you.
It was me.
Okay. So are we okay with this? Do we need to change
Fine.
We
anything?
need to strike Eric as being present.
Yeah, we striking
We'll
here.
take care of that.
Okay. All right. All those in favor? Okay. Could I have a motion for November 20th, please?
I move to approve the minutes of the November 20th, 2019 meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any public comment? Any board discussion?
I just have one, even though I wasn't there. On the election of the board chair, there were only 6 people.
Yeah, it's because she can't vote.
Jeannie didn't vote for herself.
Can
Mhm.
vote though.
I know, but I didn't.
I know.
So that should be nice.
Oh,
But isn't
Okay.
that just the
But you would
No,
have
she didn't.
abstained then.
closing nomination? Is that what you're looking at? I move to close nominations?
Yes. And Janie didn't vote, so it should have been 1 abstain. Because it looks like it was nobody else. there,
yeah,
that's
no.
all.
And then you did vote for yourself. In the next one.
No, I voted for Kate. Oh, the next one? Yeah,
Yes.
I voted. I don't think I voted for that, for myself at all. I voted for Kate.
Thank you for
No,
But I did offer board discussion on that.
We'll make the correction about the
Okay.
abstention.
All right. All right. Anybody else? All those in favor? Okay. Could I have the superintendent's report?
Sure. Just given the lateness, I've got a couple just quick items to for the board. First of all, Jordan Small Cooking Club will be having their event that was supposed to have been last night. It will be 6 o'clock on Thursday night. I have 3 paid-for seats. If any board members want to attend Thursday night, let me know. So we have 3 individuals from central office who can't go that night because of the reschedule. So
Is it next Thursday?
No.
tomorrow night at
Tomorrow
6.
night
Tomorrow night at
5.
6.
Isn't it 5 to 7?
Tomorrow night at 5. Thank you.
5 to 7. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm going.
So if anybody wants there, or Phil, Vanessa, Ryan, 5 o'clock, thank you for that. That dinner's tomorrow night. Christine and I, as well as Christine, had a chance to attend the Katahdin Thanksgiving, and want to thank the Wyndham Center Church for opening up their hall so that Katahdin could actually go up there and cook, use their cooking facilities and their meeting hall at a very reduced rate. Want to thank them for that. But want to thank Craig, Paul, Christine, Rod, Marie, and the students. It was a fabulous dinner. I know Dave had a chance to attend as well. Dave Nato from the town council. Kids did a great job with it. It was a great meal, and the cooking space was great. So I'm just thankful that Wyndham Center allowed us to come in and use that space, and I think we've now started to form a relationship with them.
Oh, good.
Also had a chance yesterday to visit with the Odyssey Angels kids on some of their
Good.
projects and things that they're working on. Kids are super excited. They did vote. I think we met Monday night. They did vote that we should have a snow day yesterday, so I think we went ahead and called it with that.
No.
They kind of pushed me over the edge with it, but it's a great group of kids. They were pretty excited. They were working on a solar system project, and they're doing some great things, raising some money for some bus arms, working across the district in Wyndham and Raymond. And then just a reminder to everyone that AmFam's this weekend, and if you don't have tickets, you won't get tickets, because I think we're sold out at this point for both performances. But Norm Lewis will be joining us again, and I learned something today. Norm Lewis, who has had Broadway fame, also appeared on stage with Alice Cooper. So
Oh.
that's not a combination that I would have expected, but should be a
Now,
great
that's
performance.
not something I would have.
Should be a great performance Saturday night.
Somebody, if they're looking for a ticket, I don't know if they're still, but this afternoon I looked on Facebook. There's a couple of people who have tickets who were trying to sell their tickets because they can't make it.
Seriously?
So you might want to go on Facebook and try. Don't ask me who it was. I did not pay attention
Okay.
because I have something else I have to go to. But
Should be an amazing night.
Oh.
Yeah.
It is.
it is. That
It
always
is.
is. Yep.
Okay. Committee report.
Finance has not met recently.
Okay.
Okay. For the technical schools, I'm going to have to defer to Chris because I was not there and he was. I did send the minutes. I'm sorry for the lateness of the second ones.
That's
I can only send them when I get them.
So both Paths and Westbrook met. I think that was not last week, but the week prior. Good news for RSU 14 is that numbers are up in both locations over last year, which is nice to see those things that continuing to trend upward. Discussion in both groups with the funding formula, because the way that our Constitution is set up, there's two parts of the PATH budget, Part 1, Part 2. Part 1 used to come through the board and was part of your budget process. Part 2 would also come through. That was the small equipment purchases. And there's been some discussion about whether or not we keep the same language within both constitutions for Part 1. So we have 2 subcommittees that are working, one at Pass and then one at Westbrook. I think the general feeling is that we'll keep the language as is because we never know if EPS will not be enough to cover the expenses. The other piece which was discussed is putting together a principals group with the directors for Portland and Westbrook to talk about how discipline works between the vocational schools and the sending high schools to make sure that everyone's consistent on the same page, so that if a student has a discipline issue at the vocational schools, it's recognized in the sending high school. And how does that communication happen back and forth?
And we'll make sure, and when they look at the rewrite for both schools, for the Constitution and the bylaws, I'm going to make sure that I get a copy. Would you rather have it paper or electronic? If you have it paper, you can just dash it on there, but it's up to you. I'll send them out both ways if I get it.
Thank you. Policy, we're meeting next week. I think I mentioned before, we have administrative
Administering medication,
Thank
which
you.
includes now sunscreen and marijuana. So how marijuana is handled. And again, thank you to our friends at Drummond Woodsum for rewriting the sample policy. There was some recent language for allowing students to carry sunscreen in the most recent legislative session, as well as some past language on now that marijuana is legal, what are the instances and how does the school react to that? And
we
again,
have 2 separate policies, and what we're doing is we're melding them into one. And we're going to be meeting with the nurses next week to get their feedback on how this is going.
Facilities?
Facilities met on the 18th, and Bill had let us know that the drawn a blank. What was it called? The revolving renovation projects. There's a little bit of a timeline snafu, if you will, with that, in the fact that basically Bill is not going to find out if we are awarded anything until approximately the month of February, and in which case he has already pretty much submitted his budget. And then the timeline for said projects to be completed is the end of June 2021.
Yep.
That's going to be a difficult feat to overcome. So we'll have to kind of cross that bridge as it comes. But as from what it stands right now, the timeline from what the DOE has rolled out is just not lining up with the timeline of our budget. So, and then he kind of went over some other projects that he is in need for, and so he will present that information to us during his A-team presentation once he meets with the rest of the A-team to determine what can and can't be done.
Scott, did you send minutes out?
I haven't. No.
I wasn't here. The only reason I
No.
Okay.
Unless you know.
Okay.
I haven't sent minutes in a long time. Sorry.
Okay.
Owning it.
That's
Right. I am accountable.
Yeah, we Okay, thank you. Anybody have anything to bring up? Okay. Can I have a motion to approve going into executive session?
I move to approve going into executive session to discuss a confidential matter with school attorney pursuant to 1 MRSA subsection 4056E.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? We are in executive session.